History 45, Giant TV, Shane Christopher Neal, and real privilege to be at Canadian Music Week and to have these people with me. 40 years Canadian musician, maybe not you 40 years, but Mr. Jim Norris, it's 40 years.
It is.
Congratulations on that first.
Thank you.
As I open up this wonderful magazine, which still comes in print format,
Yep.
which is pretty awesome, you have something here always in forward motion. We're a long way from where we started, and that was always the plan. So when you started 40 years ago, what was the plan?
Boy, that's a tough one. I mean, some of it was unrealistic because when you start a business, you're not aware of a lot of things, like collecting money is one. And the other thing that businesses aren't aware of is the amount of government adherence and regulations, and nobody tells you that. All of a sudden you get a form in the mail saying, well, you got to do this, and it's like,
Remit
what?
this money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, where did that come from? So, there's certain things you don't know about, but I think, I think the other thing too is we got a lot more support from our U.S. friends to start with than we did from Canadians, and that's kind of a typical Canadian thing, cautious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Said, well, you can't do this, and if it was a good idea, somebody else would have done it. I heard that all the time, whereas Ludwig Drums took our back cover like immediately without even seeing a magazine. But that changed. Over time, people came along, and we've had every major artist, I think, in the last 40 years
featured
in the
or
magazine.
something in the magazine. We'll get to Andrew in a second, how he joined the team, but let me ask, were you a musician before?
Yes.
Or are you one now still? Yeah.
I don't have time anymore, but
You were, so you were...
I played professionally for 7 years and toured and recorded, and Ralph Murphy, who's well known here,
Absolutely,
was our producer.
Really?
He produced our second album and some of our singles, and we had Terry Brown work with us, who did most of the Rush albums.
Wow.
Yeah, you should see the pictures.
Oh, we had a lot of big people that worked with us. I mean, it's amazing, really.
What was the goal, I guess, then too? You're trying to educate the musician. Because you're talking a lot about gear. You're talking about production. You know, so was that your goal, kind of like how we help you get further in your career type thing?
There was two goals. I mean, one was certainly education, but the other was connection. Because Canada being what it is, and of course there was no internet in those days. I mean, so if you were out in Lethbridge, let's say, and you're playing along, you have no idea what's going on anywhere else because there was no musician media as such. There was Guitar Player in the States. That was it, as far as almost in the world before we came along. So that was the other part, is that somebody, goodness knows where, could feel connected and get information, what's going on in the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
And that's still the same, only now we've got more tools. We've got the internet,
Digital,
we've got our podcast, we've got webinars and all these other tools and events like this where we get to actually meet people. So that hasn't changed really. It's information on the business, the technology, but also just connecting people together and helping them is really a good part of it.
So I remember when I look at this being 40 and I'm 49, so at 9 years old, and I was playing drums, I guess, maybe by 12 or so. My dad was a jazz drummer, and I kind of got into that. Of course, I was playing Van Halen, not jazz, but whatever. And this was the first magazine that I turned to until at the time, and not that I gave up on this, but Hip Parader and Metal Edge, and they came along because I was into the hair rock stuff. But it's always been an important part of my life, and I know a lot of people here in Canada that play music. So let's talk about you, Andrew. So you joined Jim's company when, and maybe give us your role, because you're all over the place, and you have a podcast and everything else, so speak to all that.
Indeed, yeah. Joined a little over 10 years ago now. Right out of school, I studied literature in university, but was writing music, concert reviews for the school newspaper, and was always really passionate about music.
I thought he was going to say I was really negative about the bands,
Oh, no, I was just loving it and kind of felt that's what I wanted to do. I mean, there aren't many publications that cover music, or at least cover music exclusively in Canada, probably even fewer now, but Canadian Musician was on my radar. I have friends that were readers, and so got to be good to be lucky to be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just applied at the right time. I was able to join the team. I started as the assistant editor. Within about a year and a half, was promoted to the current seat here. And yeah, just over the years, it's been fun
So you
growing
write,
what I
but
do.
you do all the podcast stuff, like I said.
Yeah, yeah.
So how have you found that has enhanced, I guess, the presence of Canadian musician, obviously, because we're in a digital world.
Yeah.
Are you seeing a lot of people are visiting your podcast sites and are happy to speak to you as opposed to the old way of maybe doing interviews by paper and pen type thing?
Yeah, good question. Yes, to your first question, and to what Jim was saying about like just making connections, connecting people. Yeah, like the podcast is just another arena to talk to people in a slightly different format. We can draw it out a bit, get really kind of insider baseball in some cases to be really helpful, dig into really topical issues affecting the industry, which, yeah, just taking ideas, passing them along. And then we do a lot of cross-platform stuff too, so it's not even like you have to compartmentalize or isolate all these things.
Yeah.
We can do a long podcast interview, have a really good hour-long chat with, say, Deborah Manis-Gardner, the sample queen, who I'm chatting with later today on the stage. But then we can take bits and pieces of that, build articles around it. We can put snippets of it online in other capacities, and yeah, basically just use all the tools we have at our disposal to share good ideas and kind of be the conduit for career development, as saying.
What do you, and to both of you, what do you think about the Canadian music scene in general? I mean, you've been around it now a long time, and you not as long, obviously, but how have you seen it grow? Because I've definitely seen positive things happen. I mean, when I was growing up, I don't know, besides your major bands that you would see, your Triumph, your Rushes, and those names that people knew. I mean, there was some other smaller ones, but today there's so many bands that are making an impact here in Canada. Have you seen that as well? Like in your?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear a lot of negativity about a lot of things, but the music industry in general in the world is stronger than it's ever been.
Absolutely.
Is it the same? No. A lot of things move sideways, and people aren't prepared for that. But you have to be. Sometimes there's something there, and it's like, where did it go? Well, it's over there, and you're not. Yeah. And it's changed. Live music especially. I mean, live music has always, in my mind, been the most important part of it. I mean, recording was to emulate live, and then it got all turned around where it was the opposite. Well, we got to sound like the record. Oh, wait a minute, the record was supposed to sound like you are live.
That's right.
And it's not necessary that they sound the same. But live is so important, and it's accessible to anybody. You don't need a record deal. You don't need anything to go play live.
Absolutely.
Just find somewhere to play, get in front of some people. You make, I've talked about that a lot today. You make fans one at a time, and if you can get in front of a few people, a house concert or anywhere, on the street corner, get some fans. The thing that makes it easier in a way is just with all the internet tools. It doesn't solve it all, but it makes it easier than it was. If Rush had the internet, they would have caught on a lot faster. They did it the hard way, playing for a few people, and then
getting on the bus, going somewhere else, play for a few more.
Yeah, and that's what they did. But that's still available to any artist. They can get out and play, and they should play as much as possible, like all the time. Get better at it. Go see somebody like Tom Jackson,
yes,
who will teach them how to do it better.
Your buddy Tom.
And nowadays they can record. It's good to have a record deal, but you don't have to. You can record very inexpensively. You can get it online. Like, there's a lot of ways of doing things.
Absolutely.
But again, it comes down to the music, and it really does come down to the songwriting, in my opinion. Yeah. If you write great songs, you almost can't kill it.
You can't do anything with a song that sucks. Sorry.
No.
It doesn't matter how good your social is or where it is.
And
if it's not a good song, it's not a good song.
A lot of them, they don't even suck. They're just boring. Like, they're in the middle. It'd be better if they did suck. Like, some of them are just, so much of it is just in the middle somewhere, and it's just boring.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want to be. You want to be one way or the other.
I'm going to ask you this, Andrew, because you talk to a lot of artists and people in the industry. So is this the land of opportunity now in the music business as we move forward? Because I know you also do an Instagram, what do you call it, IGTV Q&A, right, with Andrew? See, I'm paying attention. and so is this the land of the opportunity right now? Is this a good time for you to be in music? And second part of the question would be, to put you on the spot, I guess, but who recently have you spoken to over the last year or so that really stands out to you as an amazing up-and-coming artist or artists? That puts him on the spot.
Yeah, well, just because it's so recent and relevant, and I guess even up and coming now might not be fair because he's won the Polaris Prize, he's won a Juno, and won some ECMAs all in the last 6 months. But Jeremy Dutcher an Indigenous artist who's classically trained. And do you know his story? He basically revisited museum archives and found these recordings of his ancestors singing their traditional songs on like wax cylinders that like predate vinyl, this massive gramophone that they used to record these songs. Anyway, he took this music and calls it kind of a musical conversation with his ancestors, and he writes this beautiful kind of operatic music around it that incorporates the actual recordings of.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's breathtaking stuff. I mean, and we're not the first to put him on. A lot of people have realized the brilliance of this record, but I got to sit down with him at ECMA's East Coast Music Week, I guess last weekend, and it was one of the best interviews of my career.
Yeah.
More because of him, I have to say. Like, I was just blown away, learned so much, and just really enjoyed the back and forth. So anyway, Jeremy Dutcher is an incredible talent that I will
Perfect.
happily plug here. But yeah, to zoom out, is it the land of opportunity? I mean, yeah, we do hear, there's some panels here talking about like the value gap, and it's being hard to make a full-time living for a lot of creators.
Right. Yeah.
And there are various factors affecting that. At the same time, it's more democratic of an industry that it's ever been, and if you're doing something cool, it's easy for you to put that out somewhere. It's easy for people to find it. So yeah, I mean, there's always a bit of a ebb and flow to it, but I think right now there's more music, more unique music. People are into things, subgenre.
Well, that's because we can get it anywhere, right? Like you put it on your Spotify or however you stream your music, and you hear stuff and go, I didn't even know this type of music or this artist existed.
Yeah.
And you're kind of finding new people that way. I think that's great.
Yeah.
The good thing too is that you don't need the powerhouse of a label behind you. I mean, it'd be nice, but you don't. Those are the only people that anybody ever knew about.
Yeah.
Today, everybody can know about everybody. Right?
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, the other thing that's different nowadays too is that it's not age restricted in any way anymore. When
So
I was
you're still got some left in you, don't you?
Well,
That's why you're saying that.
No, but it's true though. When I quit playing rock and roll, I was 26, and I thought, man, I'm getting old here. This is too old to be playing rock and roll. But you look at it now, there's bands like with guys in their 60s playing with a 19-year-old, and there's just like everything is and gender and race and everything is just completely wide open.
Yeah.
And there's no real restrictions of any kind, which I think is cool.
Absolutely.
And the fan doesn't care if you're 20 or 60.
You're good and you got a good show, and absolutely.
They like. I remember Spirit when they were around, and the drummer was one of the other guy's father, and it was just like, at that time that was weird, but nowadays it's just like kind of anything goes. And one thing I just want to say about Andrew as well, part of his track record, is he's great at picking up and coming talent, like really good. Like sometimes we'll be no, it's true
That's
though.
why he's
We'll-
moonlighting in A&R, that's all.
Well,
Sony or whatever.
we'll be featuring something, and I'll say, who the hell is that, right?
Yeah.
And Andrew says, oh, they're going to be really big.
Yeah.
Next Junos comes, guess what?
Yeah, they're right there.
Go through the nominees, go through Canadian Musician for the last year.
And there it is,
It's the
yeah.
same people.
So, last question, I promise. What are you going to do for the next 40 now? Any idea what the plans are moving forward?
Get really tired, part of it. No, I think, the direction we're having is similar. We just want to bring it to way more people.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to, and just help more people.
Right.
And musicians sometimes are just hard to help.
Yeah.
They just are. We've had a lot of experience with that, and just get them on track, do some planning, do things that musicians don't do.
Well, yeah.
And I've talked to quite a few here, and they just don't have a plan of any kind.
Right.
It's you just hear hopefully a lot, and these kinds of words. Well, get rid of those words. Right. What's your plan? How are you going to do this? And it's going to take a long time.
Well, you had a plan and a vision, and congratulations. 40 years, Canadian Musician Magazine. Andrew King, a big part of it. Jim Norris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, take care.